gentlemen, greetings to you all. My name is Willy Wonka. You see, I'm something of a magician. Prepare to be amazed.
Teapot.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel Paws On Animation and our Paws On Tubi segment.
In today's podcast, we're covering the musical that no one knew was a musical, Wonka.
Now, this movie shows an entirely original backstory of Willy Wonka from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and showing how he came to a new world, made his very own original and unique chocolate, and soon opening his iconic chocolate factory. Yeah, it's a little, neat and tied up with a bow.
Yes.
But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, notifications for some future podcasts and Little Paws videos.
Thank you for joining us today, subscribing to our channels, commenting, and so much more. We appreciate you more than you know. We are grateful for you.
Yes.
So, how did we end up watching this movie? Well, it was funny because Rascal said she never wanted to see it. And I really didn't think about watching it either. Mm-hmm. But then it came up free on Tubi.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
surprisingly.
Well, since it's free, we might as well go ahead and watch it.
Yeah.
We'd heard that it was a musical. It really has musical numbers, so it's not really a musical, but it does have musical numbers. And we also heard that, well, people just wanted to see it because of Willy Chalamet. So it wasn't really thought to be that great. Well, box office says otherwise. So let's give you those quick numbers. For those of you not familiar with Wonka, it came out in 2023. It's categorized as a musical fantasy film, co-produced by Village Roadshow Pictures, the Roald Dahl Story Company, Heyday Films, and Domain Entertainment, distributed by Warner Brothers. I thought it was Disney for the longest.
Oh, no.
Now, it came out in theaters in the United States in December of 2023. It had a running time of 116 minutes. The budget was $125 million, and it grossed over $634 million.
Yeah.
What I think helped this movie is that this was after COVID was finally done and over, and people wanted to get back to the theaters and see movies. Mm-hmm. And it offered them something that they hadn't been able to see for years, since 2020. You had music, but most people didn't know it was a musical.
Right.
You had Timothée Chalamet, which a lot of people like, as well as some other stars in it. And you could tell it was a big budget production because when you saw the pictures, you could tell that the sets were extravagant, mm-hmm. and the cinematography looked good. Mm-hmm. That being said, we're going to let you know whether it's worth watching at home now, since it's not in the theater.
Right. And one thing to keep in mind is that, as we stated in the opening, this is an original backstory. If you're looking for one in the book, in case you haven't read it, there isn't one for Willy Wonka. There's one for Charlie. As you see, he comes to the chocolate factory, but Willy Wonka never has a stated backstory in the books. He's sort of this really enigmatic character who's also kind of crazy, also kind of sadistic, also kind of weird. He was all this mystery to him. And they try to give him a little bit of backstory in the Tim Burton movie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which people kind of like, okay, and didn't need one because you kind of just accept this character because the fun was his mystery. Mm-hmm. So the idea of making a Wonka film entirely showing nothing but a backstory, and not by the creator, but just somebody, I guess, who's a fan of the books, I'm assuming, if they read them, to make the story for this character. And on one hand, it sounds interesting, and there's a lot of parts that they keep in to make sure it sounds like it's Willy Wonka and Roald Dahl. The other half is that Wonka's personality is completely different.
And I said maybe because he was young. Now, that being said, this was directed by Paul King, and the screenplay was written by Simon Flaherty and Paul King, and the story by Paul King, so that's who you can blame.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, the development began back in 2016 after Warner Brothers obtained the rights back to the character, because they had it at one time.
Yeah.
And then they lost it, so they reacquired it. And they announced the film was going to be an origin story, telling a story to exist as a companion piece to the film, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
And they did that, they thought, by reprising some of the music, the thematic elements, and the visual designs of the Oompa Loompas.
Yes.
So you can decide whether or not they succeeded with that when you watch it.
Yeah.
It got a lot of praise. It went on to become the eighth highest grossing film of 2023, and it received some nominations from BAFTA, Golden Globes, and some other award shows. So again, the question is, does it satisfy those who love either the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory or the one done with Johnny Depp? That's the question. For me, I liked it. I was surprised that I liked it. I didn't expect to like it. And before you wonder, no, I'm not a Timothée Chalamet fan in terms that I watch everything he puts out and things like this. So I didn't watch it for him. I watched it because it was free and asked Rascal to give it a try. And it was very pleasant. It was pleasant. They had a couple tropes, but there was no death and there were no murders. And
the
people
murder.
that were missing already were missing at the beginning of the film, and then explanations were given as to why they weren't there. There were a lot of changes that veered from the original Gene Wilder. But I think since this is meant to stand on its own, it's okay. Now I say that, but there's a sequel in development. So I think as long as you watch this as something separate from the other two movies and you watch it just for what it is, you will enjoy it. The songs were really good, and I was very surprised. The songs were catchy, really good. The singing was good. The acting was great. Cinematography was beautiful. The funniest thing to me was Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa.
Yeah, which I don't think anyone expected when they saw the trailer. And they made sure only one Oompa Loompa was in here.
But they've done that before with Fred Claus, where they had people who they used digital CGI, I should say, to make them appear smaller. And it's been done before. Now, thanks to you-know-who, no one gets a chance to play these roles anymore.
Right? It's just everyone's regular.
Yeah, they have to be AI or CGI. He just messed up everything. We won't mention his name.
Right.
But if you're looking for something fun to watch, something that remains wholesome most of the time, then this is it. You've got a couple of plot twists that some you can figure out and a couple you can't. And I think for what it is and what it's offering, it's worth a watch, especially if you can watch it for free on Tubi, where it's airing free. It's worth giving it a watch and seeing what you think. I thought that this would be a great time in November to review it so that you guys have a chance to watch it now, because this is one of those months where you don't get movies anymore that focus on Thanksgiving or gratitude or anything of that nature. And within this movie, that message was there. And this version of Willy Wonka was grateful, and I did like that.
And the way they have the story planned out is that by the end of the movie, he gets the real chocolate factory. But you know it's not really the end, because now they've set up a sequel and they're going to make a sequel. And the thing they've kind of suggested is that during the sequel, you'll start to see how he becomes crazy as heck as you see him in the other versions. Like, he starts out as a nice, well-rounded guy, happy as can be, and then something happens and it triggers him going crazy. And I don't know what they'll have happen, which means something pretty bad has to happen, or maybe he just kind of loses it because he's always in the factory. We won't know. We'll have to see. And they try to have it where he had more of a unit or a group of friends helping him for everything. And the thing is, you might recognize that for some other movies, not exactly Disney movies, but just some movies that seem to have a similar approach of having the Wander-like character and the best friend, and then the group of people who are misfits. You had the bad guy they had to beat, fighting for their lives and things.
That's kind of what made me think of Disney, and I was stunned that it's not Disney, it's Warner Brothers.
Right. So if you like those types of films that follow that pattern, and that's more of the feel-good comfort trope that you're used to, then you'll enjoy this.
So let's quickly give a shout out to the main cast. There's too many people in here to cover that had smaller roles or background roles, so we're just going to cover the main ones. Timothée Chalamet as Willy Wonka. Colin O'Brien plays him as the 10-year-old. Kala Lane is Noodle.
Yes,
Keegan-Michael
really.
Key as the chocolate-addicted chief of police, and this pretty much fit him.
Yeah.
Patterson Joseph as Arthur Slugworth, Matt Lucas as Gerald Prodnose, Matthew Bennington as Felix Fickelgruber, Sally Hawkins as Mrs. Wonka, his late mom, and yes, they give you some backstory with his mom in here.
Yeah.
Rowan Atkinson as Father Julius, and he's also a chocolate-addicted cleric. Jim Carter as Abacus Crunch, Natasha Rothwell as Piper Benz, and Olivia Colman as Mrs. Scrubbit, who's a greedy laundrette, and she's got a guy that's with her, and he's also greedy, but I don't know.
Basically the
his
type
name.
of characters you see in the Roald Dahl books.
And as we mentioned, Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa.
Mhm.
Now he has a name, I don't recall, but
He's there.
Lofty.
Lofty.
the Oompa Loompa.
Okay.
So if you happen to watch Wonka 2023, let us know in the comments below. Did you enjoy it? Did you like it? Did you find the songs catchy? Do you think it was okay as a standalone? Let us know what you think. And let us know if you have seen all three films, which is your favorite now? Do you prefer one over the other? And if so, why? And if
Right.
you haven't seen it, it's available on Tubi to stream for free. Again, it's worth a watch. It's a nice movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it earned the $634 million that it received. Watch it, come back, and tell us what you think.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and we give videos for anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us, subscribing, sharing our videos, commenting, and so much more. As always,
You are special.
And in case you're wondering, for me, my favorite is still the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder. How about you?
I think it would be the same. So,
So,
thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
and I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
I guess it's time to change the world.